UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says Russia has fatally underestimated the readiness of Ukrainians to fight. Now, Johnson made the comments as he visited Poland, where he met with his Polish counterpart Mateusz Morawiecki, as well as the President Duda and NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg. The Prime Minister condemned what he called Russia's barbaric and indiscriminate tactics against Ukrainian civilians. The UK government has been criticised for not doing enough to help refugees by not waiving visa access for people trying to flee. And when asked if talks and diplomacy were still a solution, Johnson said currently it would be hard to bring Russia back to the negotiating table.
Yes, I'm all in favour of negotiation. Yes, I'm all in favour of finding a solution. But how can you negotiate with somebody whose tanks are rolling towards Kiev and who is bombing innocent civilians? I think it's impossible at the moment, and I think that is the reality.
Well, for more on this, let's go straight over to London now, where we can bring in reporter Vincent McAviney, who is standing by. Vinny, over 660,000 people have so far fled Ukraine. We've seen them moving west, becoming refugees, and we've also seen those neighbouring countries welcoming them in. At the same time, it has to be said that the UK has come in for some criticism for its response, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has done over the past couple of days from opposition MPs in Boris Johnson's own party and the wider public as well. Because whilst refugees are separate to normal immigration, immigration is still a very much hot button issue in the UK. It was the main reason for people that voted for Brexit voting for that course of action. And the UK has been altering its immigration system over the past couple of years. When it was in the EU, remember, it was never in Schengen. There has always been a form of border control here. And this current government that's in there, Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, has made it her political mission to drive immigration figures down. She wants it down under 100,000. And that is what the last couple of days have really been about. Her and her department, the Home Office, coming round to a position which they have now changed in the past few hours under sustained pressure from MPs in Parliament and criticism of the government. They are now going to allow refugees, the Prime Minister said up to 200,000, from a category around Ukrainians in the UK currently. So if you're a Ukrainian in the UK, over the weekend they were saying, right, you can bring in your children under 18, you can bring in your spouse, your partner, but they were the only people that you could bring across. Many people saying, well, what about those people's parents? What about children older than 18? What about the siblings? Now the UK in the past few hours, after a lot of back and forth, have agreed that those categories will now change. So people can bring in those members of their family into the UK, but it still is not a word yet on bringing in just people generally from Ukraine. And the government got in real hot water over the weekend when one of Boris Johnson's MPs suggested that people could apply to be fruit pickers, that is a visa route that they could get into the UK. But many people saying, how do they apply to do this? That is so disconcerting. These are people escaping war, people escaping the oncoming Russian aggression. And this is a country with a proud history, in fact, of taking in refugees. If you go all the way back, to the Second World War, the Kinder transport, taking in people that were fleeing Nazi Germany. It's something that the UK has done consistently through the conflicts of the 20th century. But it has become a hot button issue because of the waves of refugees coming in boats across the channel. And that has turned a lot of people in this country, sadly, against taking in refugees because they think the systems aren't working and they're being exploited.
Meanwhile, Vinny, today we also saw a Ukrainian campaigner essentially take British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to task.
Yes, she did. She stood up at the press conference that he gave when he was in Poland as part of this tour today and criticised him specifically on this idea of using air defences that the UK, NATO partners will not put in this no-fly zone over Ukraine. And she said, well, it's fine to say that whilst it's not your children being bombed, it's not your colleagues being bombed. And she got very emotional. And she said, in the clip you're just about to hear as well, criticised Boris Johnson as well for not going hard enough in clamping down on Russians, their assets and their businesses here in the UK.
You're talking about more sanctions, Prime Minister, but Roman Abramovich is not sanctioned. He's in London. His children are not in the bombardments. His children are there in London. Putin's children are in Netherlands, in Germany, in mansions. Where are all these mansions seized? I don't see that. I see that my family members, that my team members are saying that we are crying. We don't have where to run.
Well,
This is what is happening, Prime Minister.
Now, Boris Johnson didn't reply to those specific points on the Ogyarks, but he did say that when it comes to a no-fly zone, that he was worried that could escalate into a full-blown conflict between NATO and Russia, the possibility of a nuclear war, saying that was not something that could be done currently. But that campaigner did say to him, quite frankly, well, we're already in World War III here, and you have to wake up to that.